All right, welcome to the work session, everybody. October 7th, 2022, 9:30 a.m. I ask the Secretary Treasurer to call the roll.
Scott Harwitz.
I am here.
William Pell, present. Edward J. Warner.
Present.
Anna Walker.
Here.
And William Parrish. Present. We're all here.
All right. I want to start off, we're supposed to have a discussion with the Mayor, Jesse Warren from Southampton Village, on some projects at 9:30 this morning. I don't see Jesse here just yet, but Charles, the engineer on Zoom, is have you confirmed if the engineer?
All I can do is try to chat with them.
All right, so, as you were aware, fellow trustees, the Village of Southampton has been diligently working on trying to clean up some waterways that the underwater lands are owned by the Southampton Town trustees. So it has to be.
Via the use of
Community preservation.
CPF fund.
Correct.
Yes.
So collaborative efforts that go on between the trustees and the villages for the purposes of trying to achieve, healthy waterways, good water quality, and eliminating things that at times are public health hazards. People are working together, everybody rowing in the same direction, maybe you can get something done. So I think the mayor and his engineers were going to present to the board this morning. I think Charles is just trying to figure out who's on.
Can you just ask them to state who they are?
Yeah, if you're coming on, can you please state who you are? If you're on Zoom at the meeting, can you please state who you are and for which discussion you are here for? If you could do that. So we can. Hopefully you're getting some feedback now, Charles.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Faintly. Who do I have there?
This is Anna Willie from the Department of State.
Who do we have?
Hannah Willie, Department of State.
Okay, thank you. We're not up to that project yet.
Right, okay.
Thank you, though. Thank you for being there, and we're going to get to you.
Okay,
Thanks, Hannah.
Who else have we got out there in Zoom land for the work session presentation?
Bring someone in there.
Okay. Anybody here for his Village of Southampton?
Yes, hi, my name is Kelly Giddich. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi, guys. Kelly Giddich, I'm coming to you with the dock permit for Big Fresh Pond.
That's later.
Yeah, that's later on in the agenda. We're looking for someone representing the Village of Southampton.
Gotcha.
Thank you. Anybody else, Charles?
I got another person coming in.
Okay.
Can the person on the phone speak up, please?
Here he is.
You mean me? This is Stephanie Lecker from New York State DEC. I'm calling in regarding the Dune Road project.
Okay, your case is later, so I'll let you in when your case comes up.
Okay. I see we have the mayor here.
Yes.
You're up. We're working on your, good morning, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thanks for accommodating us so early as well.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
We forwarded the link off to your agents for discussion, but I don't see where they've come in yet, so I don't know if you can reach them or text them. Tell them, we sent them the Zoom link to jump in, But
I
if you-
can call Charlie McGuckin from Rue. Would it be helpful to review the applicant?
Charlie's on.
He's
Oh,
on.
he's on
Perfect.
now, okay. So if you want to bring him in, if you want to describe your projects,
Okay.
then we'll bring Charlie, and that would be
All right.
great.
Excellent, thank you. All right, so Charlie's coming in. So basically, I wanted to introduce this project, but first I wanted to thank the Town Trustee Board for your collective commitment to the environment and to water quality, and for your support in all the applications. I know Town Trustee President Horowitz, Trustee Warner, Trustee Welker, Trustee Pell, we've worked together. Trustee Parrish, I'm looking forward to working with you as well, and thank you for your commitment as well. So this focuses on the Old Town Pond water quality projects that we're working on, and we wanted to bring this to your attention and get some guidance as far as next steps. But as you may be aware, in the last town WQIP grant funding applications, we applied for money for dredging of Old Town Pond. Prior to that, we commissioned Rue Engineers, who's with us today, to design a dredging program for us. This is essentially the third step in our efforts to reduce harmful algae blooms and clean Old Town Pond. One of the first things we've done 2 or 3 years ago was we actually applied for grant funding from Suffolk County and other entities for bioswales on the east side of Old Town Pond. Those we're hoping to install as soon as the grants are completed, but we've been told that we will be awarded money for the bioswales. So that's great for obviously the stormwater runoff. In addition, the prior WQIP round, we were actually awarded Phase 1 to design and create a constructed wetlands with Rue as well, or a natural treatment system. We identified a village parcel that is actually on the north side of Old Town Pond, where we can create this constructed wetlands, which will not only address some of the groundwater, but also the surface water as well. And this is actually going to be the first constructed wetlands or natural treatment system of its kind in Southampton Village. So we're excited on continuing to move forward there as well. So the third phase of this, and this is all working together, which is why I hope the application will get some significant traction, is the dredging of Old Town Pond. Now, you may be aware that we're also interested to dredge Lake Agawam. However, the difference here is that Old Town's size, which is significantly smaller, as well as the depth, which is significantly shallower, make it easier and more economical to dredge Old Town Pond. And what we're hoping to see from some of the sediment studies we obviously need to hear back from our consultants is that the sediment quality may be better than Lake Agawam, which may mean we could potentially dewater on site, which will also make it more economical if there is no inorganic chemicals and things like that that we would find in the sediments of Old Town. So for better or for worse, the feasibility and the efficiency of actually dredging Old Town Pond may actually be much easier and more economical than Agawam. And it's also a good test run as well. We can learn some lessons from dredging Old Town as we try to move and do that for Lake Agawam. So I will turn this over to Charlie McGuckin from Rue Engineers, who's been working with us on the constructed wetlands and dredging. Today we're going to be focusing on the dredging, but I'll let him tell you where we're at and what we're hoping to do. So Charlie, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. This is Charlie. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Great. I'm going to put a brief presentation up. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. So just by way of background, the Old Town Pond is listed as an impaired water body in the New York State 303D list. Has excessive nutrients. It's considered a nutrient sink for nitrogen and phosphorus. Those materials accumulate in the sediments in the pond. To address the pond appropriately, it really needs to be evaluated from multiple aspects: stormwater, groundwater impacts, and then sediment and resuspension of nutrients from within the sediments. As part of this study we sampled the sediment quality, the water quality coming in, And we've did a feasibility study to evaluate, and what we've recommended is that multiple approaches, including stormwater management through bioswales, intercepting shallow groundwater with nitrogen impacts from upgraded areas, and then removal of sediments that have accumulated over many decades. The last time the pond was dredged was, we believe, in the 70s, and it is a maintenance that does need to occur periodically, preferably more periodically than it has been. So that's a little bit on the background.
Anybody have any?
Next slide. We did transects through the pond to sample the sediments, as Mayor had said. Not all of the sediments, a portion of them contain contaminants that exceed clean general fill criteria, but at least 50 or 60% of the sediments actually meet the clean criteria, which we think means we would have a much easier chance of, and less expensive chance of getting rid of those sediments. They might ask if they meet those requirements, why get rid of them? Well, they do have high nitrogen and phosphorus levels, so they're creating a source for the algal blooms, even without other types of contaminants. But some of the sediments were impacted with things like road runoff, PAHs, and then some metals that were associated most likely with former pesticide use of gradient from farmlands. So the other criteria physically is that there's about 40 to 50% sand, and then the rest would be finer sediments. And the presence of sand also helps find a home for the material. So a couple of good items there that might help reduce off-site disposal. And then as was said, the size of this is, we're talking about, I don't know, maybe a tenth of the volume of material compared to Lake Agawam, so a little bit more manageable, although there are challenges here too. So the benefits of doing the dredging would be to remove the source of resuspension of nutrients that occurs when the water is turned over in the pond. The pond is fairly shallow now, much more shallower than it was more naturally, only about 4 feet deep in the middle. We'd like to dredge it out to get closer to its more natural depth of 8 feet in the middle. That would remove about 4 feet of the sediment, and then we'd get down to the more native sand material. We're estimating about 16,500 yards to get out the bulk of the sediments, not 100% of it, but the bulk of the sediments, and therefore remove over 100,000 pounds of nitrogen. So what this would do would be to remove the source of nitrogen from resuspension of sediments. It would also get the pond to its more of a natural functionality with a deeper water in the middle that cools the water. It also provides a better habitat. It also makes it more functional from a stormwater management standpoint, and will extend the useful life of the pond going forward. So these were just a graphic of our sediment sampling locations and water quality sampling locations. This is the proposed dredging layout. So doing dredging 4 feet in the deepest, 3, 2, 1, and then on the edges, it's really a handful of inches deep. It's not very deep on the edges, and from a practical standpoint, we think it's more cost beneficial to go after the deeper stuff and not necessarily worry about every bit of material on the edge. Also, leaving some material on the edge would just help the stability of the edge. There's not a lot of land between the water and the edge of the road, so we're trying to not create a hazard here along the road unnecessarily for not a lot to gain. So would be more focused on the middle. And then lastly, the challenge from us speaking to contractors, dredging contractors, is really the lack of space to work. There's a little bit of village park area that can be used, but we've got a couple of mature trees to avoid. There's a wetland area immediately north that we have to be very careful about. There's a little bit of a beach parking area that could be used in the winter. There's a couple of other dead-end roads, and there's a village road here that's just a temporary access, not temporary, but a limited access road for DPW. We would be talking about taking half of the road during the work, creating a one-way street just for functionality for the contractor. But still, it's definitely a challenge. With a lot more land availability, the project could happen much quicker. Trying to do the work in the winter, and it's still going to be a challenge to get it done in the winter season with some of the limitations, but that would be the goal. The budget that we've identified is about $4.1 million to do the dredging work.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And that is my presentation.
Thank you very
Can
much.
you tell us the method of dredging?
The experts we talked to were looking at hydraulic dredging methods, so taking it out as a fluid and then bringing it to an upland area, maybe likely the parking lot, and then dewatering and then putting the water back and separating the solids. So hydraulic dredging was the preferred choice from the several contractors we spoke with.
Did they estimate the time of, that it needed to dry before it could be removed?
We've looked at the ways to influence that would be the dewatering system that would be employed, and use of some sediment enhancing chemicals to drop out the sediments quicker. So after that type of mechanical processing, the material should be reasonably dry enough that within a few weeks' time it could be shipped out with that type of process.
And to make sure that I'm clear on this, so you will make Old Town Road be one-way pretty much from the intersection of Wyandanch Lane and Old Town Road, or Wyandanch Lane and Gin Lane, all the way around the corner up to Wickapog Road?
I would say to assume all the way around the corner, yeah, correctly.
Okay. And then the sediment will be placed in the beach parking lot at Old Town Beach?
Yes.
So the dewatering will take that whole beach parking lot then?
Yeah, there is a homeowner driveway that has to be maintained there, but yeah, it's not that big when you sort of break it down into staging. So we would need every bit that was available to us.
Mhm. Understood.
Trustee Welker, I would also add the hope is to obviously do this in January, February, March, so that this is out of sight, out of mind for many of our residents. Clearly, this is not something we'd want to do during July 4th weekend.
Wouldn't work.
But there's not that many residents that live in the neighborhood in January, particularly this neighborhood. So I think that's just the hope and the goal. We clearly want to avoid any delays to the public and trouble to the public.
Are you holding an official public hearing for this project?
We're not there yet. Right now, we're still waiting on grant funding from various sources, including the town WQIP. If that happens and we're fortunate enough to be awarded, then we could obviously hold a public hearing and/or inform the residents individually. And the other thing I'll add is that clearly most water quality projects are high in price, but this is less than 10% of the cost that we might incur for dredging Lake Agawam. So on a relative basis, it's a much more economical project.
Where are you taking the material to after it's been dewatered?
I'll defer that to Charlie.
Yeah, we need to specify that and have the contractors come in and give us final locations. We're looking probably at some local use that the village would help us coordinate on the cleaner material. We're looking at possibly a facility in Nassau County that can treat the material and reuse a portion of it. And then some portion that's impacted would have to go out to a disposal facility, most likely off island.
Did that estimate that you had on the pricing take into consideration the trucking of that material?
Yeah, we had estimated that approximately 40% of the material would have to be trucked off the island. So that's in that estimate.
So you're going to have a breakdown of the grain size. Basically, are you going to look to see if any of it is beach compatible, which can be put on the Atlantic beach in front of the project, which would probably greatly reduce the cost and have a huge benefit as far as bolstering the beaches?
Yeah, we do believe, I mean, just preliminary looking at it and the breakdown of the sediment size, we do think that there will be a decent volume that will be suitable for beach replenishment type project.
Very interested.
Yeah.
Charlie, if you don't mind, could you send some of your findings to us so we can put it in the file for Old Town?
Yeah, sure. We have a report that we did, that we submitted with the grant application, which probably would be a good document for you to.
That way we'll always go back and look at it.
Have you started any discussions with DEC about this project?
Yeah, we filed a permit application for the wetlands group in, I think it was April, so it's been with them for 4 or 5 months now. And we're waiting for them to get back to us. I know they said they were probably 6 months backlogged, so we still have to get feedback from them.
Okay. I was surprised when I attended the town board presentation on the water quality projects to learn of this dredging project. And I am grateful that the mayor and you, Charlie, have now taken the time to present and explain it to us. There appeared to be some confusion at that time as to the ownership and the jurisdiction of Old Town Pond. Has that confusion now been clarified?
Well, I think so, but at the end of the day, the town trustee board is our partner in this. So regardless of the ownership or whatnot, we want to make sure that we are working together on this. So we could use any particular guidance on that. But again, we don't want to do anything, obviously, without your approval, with your permitting, right, and we're working hand in hand. We consider you to be, equal, if not more important partner in the village.
My understanding of the underwater lands in the village was that the trustees owned the underwater lands, but I think allowed, from back in the day, the regulation of the surface waters to be handled by the village. But as you say, correct, it's a collaboration because we own it, but yet they in the 50s maybe, whenever it was, and passed off the regulations. So it is a good idea that we do work together on these projects.
1905 was the act that was passed.
05, okay.
Yeah.
And there was a 5 in there somewhere.
If I'm clear, just to be clear, so it sounds like you guys want the sediments that we're gonna remove from dredging, and
No,
we're happy to.
we don't.
No, I was kidding.
Well, if you could bolster the beaches, obviously,
Yeah,
the
that
beach
would-
compatible part of it, that's a public benefit to everybody.
That's a great
right?
selling point of the whole project.
Yeah.
If you're gonna put material on the beach from the pond, and maybe you should look, once this project is done and completed and, vetted properly, maybe looking towards Agawam, because I always thought that some of that material could be placed on front of that beach, and, because it's not practical to ship it all out. So like, you've already done the analysis of the material, you know the grain size, you know the sediment, what it's made up of. So, if it belongs on the beach, put it on a beach. If not, ship it out to a certified landfill.
Excellent, and the only thing.
And I would just add that we were looking into a pilot study to just, more clearly evaluate segregation of sand and sediments, sand being more appropriate for beach replenishment. DEC came back and said, even for a pilot, we have to get the permit in place. So we're probably going to look more likely at, as a first phase of the work, evaluating the sediment removal and separation, because we have to get it permitted, and so would have been better, in my opinion, to have maybe that pilot data, but we'll just have to work with it and do it all under one permit.
And the only thing I'll add is, well, first, we wanted to thank the entire board for your help and commitment to many of our projects. And we, of course, will appear in front of you whenever you'd like. In this particular case, it may seem like that we are far along on this, but we're still on the early phases. But we're hoping to move quickly, but we're waiting on a number of factors here, and this is a long drawn-out project, so we're happy that we're here today, but there's no particular reason why we would not come. It was just, we just had figured we were very early on in the project, but no sooner, no better time than the present, as they say, to be here. So we're happy very, very much to be here, and Trustee Walker, thank you for inviting us, and Trustee Horowitz, thank you for facilitating this, and again, I just wanted to thank the whole town board for your commitment. I know you've
Trustee
been-
board.
The trustee board, that's right, for your commitment, because I know when we apply for grants, you're typically there for us for letters of support and for additional areas of information, and obviously we cannot do any of this without your help and commitment, so thank you very much.
Yeah, it's our pleasure to collaborate with the village. There's a lot of moving parts to any of these projects, and we'll just keep, I think, what's important is a good chain of communication. I think is really important as we move forward through the process. So, any more questions, trustees?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
All
Jessica.
right, have a
Thank
great
you,
day.
Charlie.
Thank you.
Bye, Charlie.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thanks. All right, let's,
Thanks,
we got
Charles.
a 11 o'clock scheduled exec session, so I think what we need to do is move on to the general permit applications for determination at this point, and stick, jump on that agenda. I have a Carol A. Kwiatkowski, 11 Ramada Drive, Hampton Bays, First Coastal. I see Aaron and Billy Mack are here.
Good morning, Aaron Tertunian, First Coastal, West Hampton Beach, New York, on behalf of the applicant from 11 Romano Drive. As you can see from the photos, if you bring those up, please, James, they have an erosion problem on the shoreline here, and apparently there was some self-help executed in the form of some plastic sandbags. I think if you can zoom in there, you can see that. So you have this conglomeration of some look like native rocks because they're rounded, and then we have these sandbags on top. So we were brought in to develop a more holistic approach to the project, which covers the entire shoreline. And if you go over to the plan and section, please, James.
Looks like they put some type of a, is there a bulkhead behind that, Aaron?
It's a retaining wall. It's a small retaining wall. Sticks out from, where is that? It's not a bulkhead, it's, if you look at the photos, you can see that it's just a 6x6 retaining wall.
Bunch of ties that they
Yeah, it's a bunch of ties they
bolted
put
up
in there.
together. James and I are gonna do a site visit on this one, Aaron.
Okay.
So-
This is an individual property, and we think that the most appropriate treatment here is just a revetment, then we'll cover it and plant it. I don't know how long it's gonna stay covered, but that's, the roughest, most, coarsest type of treatment we can do to the shoreline that will limit wave reflection and refraction, but still, preserve the upland. As you can see, it's got a fairly reduced distance to the house, so it's only 52 feet front to the house, and it's even half that to the deck. So in order to maintain, some buffer between the water and the house, we need to ameliorate the shoreline erosion here.
James, do we have an overview of this, a video or a picture of this property?
There you go.
So the neighbor, now what's?
Yeah, there's a bulkhead to the west on the lower part of the photo.
But not one to the
Not
north?
to the top, no.
And it's mostly native vegetation along this,
wall behind the sand. Right there.
along this shoreline, the subject property shoreline, with the exception of,
Well, yes, you can see that, if you go back to the photos, James, you can see that there's vegetation. Now, unfortunately, go to the next one, you can see all the vegetation is just, keep going, one more, please. No, is that it? Yeah, right there. You can see that the vegetation's not holding the shoreline. That dark is the peat mat
Clay.
that's being eroded away.
okay. So would the revetment comprise the whole shoreline?
It would
or
extend
just-
the whole shoreline, yes.
So from bulkhead to the,
Right,
subject
with
property to the
returns,
property to the
would
north.
tie into the bulkhead on the west, and then that return on the east.
so when you say revetment, explain that a little bit.
Well,
Just because we didn't see the cover sheet at all, so what are you projecting? What are you
If
proposing?
you go to the, so it's
There's your cover sheet.
it's about 6 feet wide by 118 feet long. And if you go to the cross-section, please, James. Yeah, the top one there, right. Oh, upside down. So what we do is we excavate above the high water line down to a scour depth. Then we place the filter cloth in the trench that's created, and then backfill that with with the revetment stone, and we put slightly heavier stones in front just to anchor the toe of the structure.
So it's a rock core dune.
More or less, yeah, rock core dune, yeah.
What do you do with the east end of it?
On the east end, we're gonna wrap a return. Actually, we've got to switch that around. Yeah, so on the east end, it'll just, it'll curve back into the shoreline. It doesn't show it on there, but we'll amend that. Just so that the structure doesn't get flanked. So it'll turn back in at basically a left turn right there where James is showing the arrow.
So the wetlands, the cattails that are currently there, where is this project going to lay out over top of that? Is it going to be upland of it or seaward of it?
It's gonna be right on top of it, really.
Should probably stake it,
That's a,
stake it out so you can get a better understanding of it on the ground.
well, is it currently just only Phragmites there, or is there Spartina and,
It's confusing because on here, GIS, it doesn't look like Phragmites.
Yeah, it looks
but-
like a little area where someone cleared out to, be able to access the beach. And all of a sudden, they realize it's causing them erosion.
We need to-
Well, actually, this whole shoreline is Phragmites, and we basically follow in the line where they have, the sandbag and rock structure now. We just basically follow along that line.
Hey, James, could you go back a couple of years on this before this?
And
Go ahead.
Aram, it's showing on your
Please.
hydrographic map that the property to the north, what I call the north, to the,
Yeah.
to what you were saying was the east, does have a bulkhead?
So they put the retaining wall in, go. 2020. They probably needed a permit from either us or the conservation board to put that in.
I don't think there's any permit there, Billy.
Okay.
For this?
Oh, you're right, there is actually a bulkhead on it. It is the north, not the east property, it's a north property.
So there's bulkhead, there are
There are
bulkheads on
either
both
side.
sides.
Yeah.
And what's the fetch here? Approximately?
Ooh, fetch here is big.
2 miles to the Ponco Bridge
Yeah,
Yep.
it's big.
on an easterly wind.
Yep.
And is there a bit of a bluff here?
No,
Not
it's
really.
not really. It's
Okay.
just a couple of feet of elevation change.
Okay.
As it works towards the
Go back 15 years.
Romano Cove, it does elevate to about 8 feet or 10 feet. And as you work
Yeah.
to the north, going up to the head of Tiana Bay, it basically levels right out.
See, there you had no Phragmites, so that actually was open water.
What year is that, James?
2005, 2010.
10?
So actually, the shoreline is, the natural grasses are actually building, right?
Yeah.
Not in the middle.
No, but I mean, on the fringe of it.
What it looked like you showed after
Yeah, but
Sunday?
there's still, I mean, they're showing up as substantial. The problem is that they're getting undercut by the
12.
wave action.
Or 13?
Yeah, you can see there's a big
13.
change right there.
What year is that, James?
2013.
Sandy.
Yeah,
That was after Sandy.
Yeah. That whole shore got hammered.
Mhm.
yeah.
All right, well, we're gonna do a site visit down there, so you wanna meet down there, or
Sure, just let us know what you want to do.
synchronize their schedules?
You want me to stake the
I think that would be helpful if you stake out where it is. I think we've done that on other projects that were like this, and it was helpful. Where specifically, that way the trustees can get a better visual.
Yeah, we know where the project is gonna end up on the property. I mean, we can look at the pictures, we can look at the aerials, but when it's staked out, if you stake out, the landward and the seaward side of the project in a couple spots, so we can get a good idea when
And we'll stake it out, send you some photos, set up a time.
And then we'll get down there with James. Let's go to, stick to the agenda here.
Thanks, Aram. Oh, are we,
Yeah,
we're
we're gonna,
staying? Oh.
no, I'm gonna go down our agenda.
Regina's not here.
Gina was
Not
here?
in the hallway.
Gina's,
saw her downstairs.
Yeah, we did.
She was just
She
sitting
was
here.
in the
She-
office.
I think she just went outside.
she,
I think she went to the building department.
Oh, she'll be there for years.
all right, so
Yeah.
you wanna go to the next, First Coastal project here? Because we'll give Gina the benefit of coming back in.
The next First Coastal project is actually me, 34 Maple Lane.
So 34 Maple Lane, this is a dock project. This is a revised drawing that we believe meets all the Blue Book criteria. It gets to 2.5 feet of water, it's less than 100 feet long, and it's to be built with untreated materials. So if the board is satisfied with this layout, we'll submit a stamp drawing.
We had an advisory letter that came in from the Conservation Board. I believe I'm not sure if I don't think the whole board nor James was in receipt of this last time, but their suggestion was, I'll just pass this along, yeah, there. So, what they proposed was to move the catwalk, the whole structure, to the west and to the north so that it would align parallel to Maple Lane, because their thinking was that in that spot, it would create less of a disturbance to the wetlands, because it would, not so much wetlands would have to be cleared. However, in discussions with members of the environmental division of the town, we pointed out to them that in its current location, it gets to deepest water in the shortest manner. And as well, the end of Maple Lane contains multiple moorings and pull stakes for dinghies and so forth. And that's a heavily used launching spot. So to have this structure just a few feet off the property line parallel to Maple Lane, although it would absolutely require less clearing on the water depth portion, and as well on just the lack of access or too much access, I guess. I don't know if access is the right word, but we think that in its current spot, it's the best. James, do you want to weigh in on that at all?
No, well, if you move it out to some other area, you're not going to meet the depth of water. So it's going to be way too long for Noah Creek in order to get that 2.5 feet of water. So.
And to come around the corner, to come to the south and face more east, then you run into this dug canal, and you'll run into a third, plus the water depth in there is not as great. So although we take into consideration the remarks of the Conservation Board upon discussion with them and upon further review, we feel that this location is the best given this subject property. But happy to take any comments or questions from others.
Sorry.
Maybe that guy wants to weigh in.
This specific area was dredged years ago, probably back in the 40s or 50s, and there was a natural channel that came from the channel that the county dredged many years ago, and it's the remnants of that before you get up in this little finger where it was all dredged out. So I'm very familiar with the area. I've fished down there for almost 50 years, so this would be the only place that the dock would acquire an appropriate water depth, and also be, able to allow people to transit through this area. If it was any longer, it'd be literally right in front of that little swale that's a little bit deeper, and that's what the channel that people use for this dredged canal. So, looking at it, it requires the water depth, the proper water depth, and it's sited on the, on the right way on the property in order to make the most of it. If we were to move it to the, west or north, it's much shallower there, and that whole area historically was eelgrass. There hasn't been eelgrass in there since, the 80s, but I think it's in the best place that it can be right now. That's where it's proposed.
Does anyone else have any comments or questions?
The rails minimal?
There are no handrails on.
Okay. Good.
I'd like to advance this if everyone is...
We do need stamp plans,
Okay, thank you.
which you're aware of.
Yeah, well, if you would
We'll hold
kindly
that.
advance it, that'd be great. And the stamp plans, we don't stamp every set of plans we give you because you're wasting a lot of ink. So,
If we're making changes on stamped plans, it's not appropriate, we should make a review over the application and then ask for the stamped plans once we pass muster at this, work session, right?
And then if they come in and...
It complicates things in the office, that's my understanding, so what's the best route forward? you guys.
I think once we approve it to move forward at the work session, then we should have stamped plans for what we've approved at the work
You
session.
could advance it to the general pending receipt of acceptable stamped plans, and if they're not received, then it doesn't go on the agenda. If they are, then it can move forward.
Yeah.
Right? Is that fair?
Mark, does that
No.
make sense? Okay.
Whatever you guys want to
You
do.
want to hold it until they're received and then put it on the agenda? Is that what you want to do? You got 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, we'll have them for you in a couple of days. We review all this with the engineer before we give it to you. It's just that every time that stamp goes on there, it costs my client $500.
Yeah, no, that's what we're saying. We want
No,
the
we
we want the final plan to have the stamp, you know,
Yeah.
after it's been
Yeah.
adjusted to everybody's satisfaction. So I mean, I think it's okay to advance applications with a subjective on there that it has to have the proper stamp, and as long as that comes in, it's okay for the agenda. If it doesn't come in, then it's not gonna go on the agenda, because it's not a complete application
It's
at
up to
that
you
point.
guys. I don't know.
It'll be on the next agenda,
Exactly.
so.
I think it's okay to do it that way.
It gets
Great,
lost,
thank you,
it gets
appreciate
lost.
it.
Hmm? All right.
Okay, I also have First Coastal, 7 Noyak Harbor.
I think that actually is InterScience, they have a misprint in there.
Oh, oops, sorry.
Yeah, actually, yeah, well, wait a second, timeout.
You gotta go
Sit down.
Yeah,
The young lady in the
Yeah,
back.
no, you're not up yet.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
yeah, that's all right.
So we have to do,
We've got Gina Rigdon is back.
Ogden Pond.
wait, so we're gonna
15
go
Ogden
back?
Pond.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we were waiting because Gina had left, so.
Sorry. Trying to get caught up. Gina Rigdon, DKR Shores, here to represent David and Christina Kepner, 18 Ogden Lane in Quogue.
You're here for two things here. You're here for Reeves Bay also? You're just here for two things?
I could speak on Reeves Bay,
You're here for two, though. That's it today, right?
yes. that's
Right,
it.
so let's do your two, and then you're done.
Okay, which one do you want to do first?
Let's do Ogden.
All right, pretty simple, been pending for a little while. It's a dock reconstruction, formerly had a permit, actually did back in 1988 with Glenn. We're basically rebuilding what's there. DEC asked to chalk the float, we're chalking the float with Class B chalks. Pre-existing non-conforming,
So you have the pre-existing in the
Yep.
same spot, using acceptable material, you have a DEC permit, and you're gonna chalk.
correct.
And how are you gonna chalk?
Class B chalks, untreated, obviously.
No, are you going with boards all the way across?
They're boards all the way across, yeah.
Okay, so it's just on the,
That's what a Class B chalk is.
Okay. I think
well,
if you-
sometimes they do it just one on each pole.
Two
Okay.
Class B chalks.
If you go with that, I'm good with this. 'Cause
Okay.
it's been there, you're using the proper material, you're not doing anything different than it hasn't already been there. And you do
Actually,
have
it's
the-
gonna be better than it was, because it's gonna be higher, it's gonna be through flow, it's gonna be open grate.
Right.
It's not gonna interfere with the wetlands on site anymore, which now it is, and it's gonna be untreated, so it's
Yeah,
better
it's
than
a
what's there.
better project, but it's
Yeah.
not taking any more
Alright.
footprint.
Correct.
That's
Do
what
you
I,
add the chalk language to your application?
I believe it's already in there, but I'll double check.
It's not on the cover page.
Okay. I'll resend it, I'll write it.
and
and
is
resend it.
plan stamped? Stamp plans,
I don't think
amended
so.
cover
But
page?
the
I think it
plans
can
right
be-
now are not stamped because it's been pending for a year and a
Right,
half.
so you'll
I
have.
do have comments on that too.
Okay. Well, we're not there now.
I know.
We're not there now.
So new cover sheet and stamp plan.
Yes.
Holding it.
Well, it could advance pending receipt of that, as long as you have that within the 2-week period of time. Can you provide that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, you good with that?
Yep.
Okay. While you're here, you have Reeves Bay Marina, that's Trustee Parish, right?
60 Bay Avenue in Flanders.
This is for a Phragmite cut within 10 feet, trustee area. I didn't submit the application, but Jim is here, the owner, to speak on behalf of the application.
Okay.
But I do have the ability to answer questions.
I mean,
if the board has them.
I mean, you have questions, trustee Parrish?
Well, I talked to James, and he suggested that we have a more specific description of the work that's going to be done.
I don't know, we have the owners here. You want to speak to that, Jim?
Want to come? I'll just kind of.
Yeah.
Hi, Jim Matusky, I'm the owner of Reeves Bay Marina, 60 Bay Avenue in Flanders. And I've requested to cut the Phragmites, which are impeding our docks. They're falling over. As a matter of fact, on June 18th of this year, I had a 7-year-old boy trip and fall in between the dock and the bulkhead because the Phragmites, during a heavy rain or wind, fall and impede passage completely from one end of the marina to the other. They're just becoming a nuisance. They're within the 10-foot bulkhead, inward, landward, and at this point, you know, I've even asked Agina to please apply for a permit to remove them and to revegetate with some native species because it's just out of control. And it's causing a lot of damage in the marina. Besides, it's filling up the
probably be better.
lagoon with broken pieces. They're becoming problematic.
I mean, that would be a good project, I think, because then you would get the benefit of the deep-rooted native vegetation, and you'd eliminate that whole problem. Are you working on this? I mean,
I most certainly could. Generally, what we do is we do a once a year to 18 inches.
You have to use the microphone.
you gotta use the mic, Gina.
Generally, what we do is a once a year, fall, generally, within 18 inches cut. And obviously, you leave the root system there because it provides stabilization for the low sill bulkhead that currently exists. And then what we do is we revegetate with species such as Baccharis, which would do very well there. It's a benefit to the environment. Phragmites, obviously, you know, is an invasive species, and it spreads, and it really doesn't need the environment other than stabilizing the bank. So what we could do is prepare a landscape plan with a Baccharis bush, 2-gallon pot every 3 foot on center. And so the hopes is that this will grow and proliferate and then choke out the Phragmites that aren't much of a use, but we leave the root systems there.
And at this point, I'm not asking to remove anything. You know, what I'm trying to do, and as you can see on the plan, I've indicated it's not even the entire marina. It's just certain areas where the people have to walk down to their boats that it's causing a lot of problems.
Do we
for
have
us.
photos?
Or you can, if you pull it up, you can.
So where are the Phragmites?
To the south, if you
Along
can.
the low sill section,
Correct.
so just south of the boat ramp itself.
Okay, so perpendicular to the road?
The opposite, the other
Yes.
direction.
Okay.
All right, so you're looking for an approval to just eliminate the safety issue you have now, and
Correct.
then you're gonna come back with a better vegetative plan.
Right. Right now, I'm not prepared to take them
Right.
out because I would have to remove all the boats to get a machine in there because you can't just remove them because the bank is fairly steep and it would just wash out and cause even more problems for me.
Right.
So, I'd have to have a little bit better game plan to do that. But right now, I just want to eliminate the hazard
Right.
that's there.
So cut them to
It's a
18
cut,
inches.
it's not
Yeah.
actually-
And then, and eventually, you're gonna look to eliminate that
Yeah,
with native
absolutely.
vegetative plan that you're talking about.
So, Virginia, you said once a year, so you're
So
looking,
once a year cut.
so once a year cut, so our permit would probably state you're allowed to cut it one time, and then you need another permit for
I
the,
think you should
Can
include
you
the
speak
native
into the
species
microphone,
at the same
please?
time.
No,
I
Gina,
think you should include the native species revegetation at
Yes.
the same time, because it's really important to revegetate in the fall when you can plant a shrub the same time you're cutting. Otherwise, they just grow back. That makes no sense. So I
No.
think we can.
but I want to make sure once the Phragmites is taken down, and the other plants start to grow.
Right.
That if it needs future trimming, that we can move
You can
forward.
always renew the permit.
Yes, that's what I'm asking for.
Yes,
The
you can
o-
always renew the permit on a yearly basis. That way you can keep them trimmed.
The other thing we've seen, and I'm sure you see it too in your Phragmite cutting experience, is that natives do come back. It's usually more the marsh hibiscus, not so much the baccharis, but that
well,
would still be helpful.
Baccharis definitely comes, a marshmallow, I'm not sure how good it would do there right now, but.
They sometimes come through, that's what I'm
I
saying.
would
You
love
are
for
correct,
them to
because
come
there are,
through.
excuse me, you are correct, because in a certain area, we did cut a little bit, because it was out of control, maybe a 10-foot area, and the under plant, the native plant, it just exploded, and it was like, we had a few customers say, why don't you plant that, it's so much nicer and pretty, it had a little flower and everything, and, that's why I'm here.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, marshmallow would be very attractive.
So what do you want to do, Trustee Pezzuto?
I think we can advance it for the cut. It's, we need a landscape architect, I think, stamp.
We could do that.
Okay, so
So you're gonna submit the revegetation plan with the landscape architect stamp and a better description on
The location
Cover
of the
sheet.
Phragmites, is that what
Yeah.
you're after?
Yes,
is that what you can do? 2 weeks? Advance it, you can get that?
probably,
I
yeah,
mean,
I think we could.
Oh, yeah, I
do
can do the
We can
landscape
do
stuff.
so you know what you need.
Great,
You go with that, Bill?
I'm good.
I'm good.
thanks, you
And in the
guys.
meantime, it's okay to trim a little bit?
No,
No? Oh, we're gonna
Okay.
still wait till, okay.
To wait for your permit.
We're running out of season now, you know, we're starting to hold boats already now anyway,
It'll
so.
advance, get the requirements, it'll advance, and then as long as you get those requirements, it'll go to resolution, and then you'll have,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, nothing gets done under my window without permit, sorry.
resolution.
I do have one quick question, comment / suggestion, as far as the Blue Book and the new rule
The book?
about having stamped plans. I've been doing this for almost 35 years, hand drawing to, I am certified by New York State. What I would suggest is adding to the Blue Book, licensed or certified by a New York State professional, because I get my CAD files directly from the surveyor who's licensed. I could reference the plans as being provided by a surveyor. But I would suggest allowing someone certified by New York State, not just licensed by New York State, because I generally tell the engineers and the architects what to do and how to do their job anyway. So, just a suggestion.
Thank you.
I feel free to provide my certifications.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
All right, Trustee Powell.
We have Kelly Gillis.
She's on the.
Charles,
She's
this
on.
is
Can you let
who's
her in?
on
Kelly,
Zoom.
Kelly Giddish is a
Big
owner,
Fish
He's
Pond.
on Zoom.
131 Big Fresh Pond. I know she popped in before.
Yes, I'm here, hi. I tried to start my video, I think someone has to able that. Here we go.
This is to repair and replace an existing dock from 1990.
Hi there, how are you?
Good.
Thank you for this opportunity to come and speak to you guys. I know 2 weeks ago you had gone over this permit application. I feel very fortunate to be sharing time with the mayor today. I just wanted to make clear, I wish I could be there in person, but I wanted to make clear that I think you guys thought we had used treated wood on the dock. Now, what I have now come to understand, what was egregious was the fact that we didn't get a permit. And we're new to the community, we're new homeowners there, we had no ties to anybody there. We saw something that was dangerous, our 3 and 6 year old sons, and just go, whoa, you know, and like our neighbors to the east, I think are 73, to the north, 94, to the west, 80, to the south, 82. So when we saw the dock as it was, with rusty nails sticking out, half of it in the water, we go, okay, this hasn't been maintained because, you know, and that's how the
Permit from the previous.
the docks are everywhere around there from our perspective as, you know, excited new homeowners. So what we saw was a thing that needed to be fixed because it was hazardous. You know, our 3-year-old went through the dock, you know, and then one kid would stand on one side of the old dock and the other side would go up. So my husband,
I don't want to
we got
interrupt.
them treated cedar.
Excuse me, I don't want to interrupt you, but we're running out of time, so we want to get right to the permit. Talk about the dock. One, that your prior dock did not have a permit, and you're over the size limit of having a dock there.
Okay,
And and it's not flow through.
Okay.
We're trying to get the flow through now, where where like if the pond comes up, the boards don't lift up, the water comes right through, and also lets the vegetable to grow underneath it.
And I
this-
actually have a picture showing that grasses are growing up through the new dock.
Yeah, but we have to keep it like we do, treat everyone the same. We ask for flow through and
Require it.
require it.
But now that I look on I'm so sorry to interrupt. I just want to make sure that I'm reading the right rules and regulations, because all I could see there, that it was just supposed to be untreated wood.
Right. Well, what are the dimensions? Is there dimensions for this here? I mean,
Yes,
let's go back to square one of how we generally do things. At square one,
One.
we look at a plan, we look at the dimensions, we compare, okay, so we got 12 feet by 8 feet. So we don't, that's not something we generally do.
Approve.
We don't, those are not approvable dimensions by this board.
Okay.
So that's a problem. Before we even get to anything else, those are not dimensions that this board would approve. So that's a problem right out of the gate just by looking at that. Okay, so I don't know who built this, who did this?
My husband.
He did the work himself?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Okay.
and the feet are powder coated stainless steel. It's just resting passively on the bottom of the lake. And and I just want to be clear, like, we looked around the other docks, and we've seen docks much bigger than that. The dock that you guys mentioned in the last meeting is 215 square feet. Ours is 120.
Okay, but okay, all right, look, we want to get through, like Trustee Pell said, this application, so,
A catwalk and get rid of the two wings.
yeah, you're gonna have to, what do we have we have an application before us to legalize this? All right, you're gonna have to go back to the drawing board on this, for a compliant structure. This is not a compliant structure per our regulations. So we're not gonna be able to approve this, okay? So you're gonna have to go back to the drawing board and take a look at the Blue Book regulations and come in with a plan that fits our regulations, from the material specs to the size specs. You're gonna have to start at square one, because we're not gonna be able to act on this application in its current form.
Okay.
And
I
plus,
just,
and plus, you can't have it's good to have, you think it's good to have it right, the foot's just resting on the bottom. You have to have secure, because if that pond ever raises, if we get a heavy flood and the water comes up, that'll lift up, with that wooden deck you have there like that, that'll lift it up and it'll move. So you have to secure it to the bottom somehow.
James, have you spoken to these folks at all? They called you?
We talked about it at the work session last, and you guys asked.
I think you need to, you want to have a conversation with her, or have her call James?
Yeah, have her call James.
I think you
I
need to
was told
call.
to bring her into this so that
Yeah.
you guys could tell.
Yeah,
her
no,
exactly what
you
want,
need to get a set of plans that comply with our Blue Book regulations and have all the proper permits for this project. This is not, we're not going to be able to act on this in its current form.
Yeah.
Because at the current
Okay.
state of the way the dock is made, the pond is X high. If we get a 6 rain or a 10-inch rain or a couple of them,
lift.
the water
Well,
level
then-
will elevate, and with that wood, it'll actually float, and it could float, in a way that could make it unstable. And so normally at these docks, it's a 4x4 pole that is jetted into the bottom and secured that way.
That's what it is. There's a pole that my husband used an auger and put it in.
Yeah, show
And
the,
then that foot keeps it there. So
Yeah.
it's down into the pond floor. I mean, but it's just inches right now. But things like that, we could put them in. But
Yeah.
it just, I feel so handicapped now, because I feel like I completely agree. It was egregious not to get a permit, and I'm very, very sorry. And I want a great working relationship with you guys, because I'm invested. I'm so happy I found a place like Southampton,
Well-
Big Fresh Pond. However, when I looked at the rules and regulations, it says untreated wood. So I feel handicapped as just a private citizen. I feel like this is making me go to a contractor or somebody that knows how to, it doesn't say flow through on the Blue Book. It doesn't say that. So how, and now that I've come to you saying it's untreated cedar, which you guys judge just on picture, saying
Regardless of whether
treated
it's cedar or whatever, the dimension, the whole
That's right,
process, you're out of synchronicity with your whole process. You know,
Right.
you know, if you want to
If you go on 54A, it says using 60% light penetrated dock. It's 60% is flow through.
it's a light,
54A? Okay.
And if you utilize this material, when the pond gets high, it's not buoyant and you'll still have a stable dock.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Okay, so in the meantime, because we got the notice of violation on August 10th. We had the permit application into you guys August 30th. It's now October 17th. What can I do?
I would say you need to get
I'm trying to be as proactive about this as
well,
possible.
you need to get a set of plans to the board that are plans that are approvable, okay? That, what you have is not approvable, so if you and your husband are gonna do this, or you're gonna hire whatever it is that you're gonna do, that's your business, but you need to get a set of plans that meet all the criteria of what.
Have to be stamped.
And they have to be stamped,
Stamped.
yeah, they gotta meet all the current approvable, regulations that we have, and then we'd be more than happy to work on it for you, okay?
Okay.
So you gotta go back to the drawing board on this, because this one's not gonna work.
Got that. And
Okay.
then in terms of resolving the complaint,
Well, that would be what you need to do, okay? You have a notice of violation, you're coming to the board now, okay, to remedy that violation. You need to stay engaged in the process here, and you need to amend this application to an application that fits the Blue Book regulations, and that the board can, resolve to, provide you a permit. Everything has to be voted on here by this board, all right?
I think she's concerned that the violation is.
Mark.
Well, Mark, you could speak to that. I mean,
Our
that's
attorney,
what-
Mark McRedmond, will speak to that, I believe.
Well, there can be time, the notice of violation doesn't necessarily in 30 days have to become a violation. It's really up to what the board wants to do. You could keep the matter open and allow work to be done and plans to be submitted.
Pending application before us, we're
Exactly.
reviewing, and once we review it and
Hold the
find it. that it's-
violation in abeyance while they.
I think that's what makes the most sense, is she is coming to us, and
Right.
she does want to resolve the issue.
She's trying.
She's trying, just hold the violation in abeyance while you're engaged in the process to remedy the problem, and let's get through this so that you can enjoy your property in full compliance. All right, so let's just stay engaged in that process. I don't think the board nobody's opposed to that.
No.
No, so everybody's good with that, but you need to stay engaged in this process, because obviously if you don't, you leave the board with no opportunity then to, move in another direction, which we'd rather not do. We want to work with you to get a good,
Right.
compliant, safe project, okay?
great, thank you so much. I really appreciate your consideration today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so that's on hold.
Yeah, we're holding this one.
Okay, I think that First Coastal, pretty much is going, no, we got actually one more guy here. You have one application, right?
7 Noyak.
But you only have one, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Let's let you go, because then Aaron Tertunian over here, I think, and Billy Mack are gonna capitalize, I think, the rest of the day here, right? It looks like.
Aaron better have some throat lozenges.
So this is
For
7.
the record, my name is Scott Dobriner. I work at InterScience. It says here on the agenda that I'm with First Coastal. And all due respect for First Coastal, and I do hold them in high respect, I'm with InterScience. Been with InterScience for 33 years, as a
Duly
matter of
noted,
fact. So I was here a month or so ago. It's a typical bulkhead replacement at 7 Noyak. The trustees basically had 4 requests. They wanted a revised cover sheet, which I've submitted. Reduced scale plans of the revegetation, which I've submitted. An updated Army Corps format drawing of the bulkhead replacement, which I've submitted. And one of the trustees, I believe it was Trustee Parrish, asked for whether or not the applicant would consider the placement of an osprey pole at the end of the peninsula. We contacted the homeowner and they emphatically agreed. So I produced a sketch that I've submitted. The sketch is dated September 13th, 22, which shows an approximate location of a 20-foot osprey pole near the end of the peninsula. I think the preferred option is to not use a standard pole, but to use something more or less like a cedar, sturdy cedar branch or of some sort of
locust.
kind. Yeah, locust. Locust would be fine. Is that your preference?
Yes.
Okay.
It's Trustee Pell.
So be it. It'll be locust.
As you can see, there are extensive landscape plans, revegetation plans that have been submitted. And in reviewing pursuant to your perusal, I think that this is
Basically, the entire property
Ready to-
becomes a wetland buffer. The only portion that isn't a wetland buffer is the area directly above the sanitary system within the retaining walls. And mind you, we have a concurrent application before the Conservation Board. Marty Shea is reviewing it at the moment. We also have an application at the DEC. So they have not commented yet. I did receive preliminary comment from Marty. His comments were very benign. His primary comment was, let's see how the trustees feel about this.
That's good.
You have a very unique piece of property down there.
It truly is.
Yeah.
Truly is. It's almost an island.
It is, it's a great spot. My suggestion would be, if everyone is in agreement, that we could move this forward, but I'd like to see what the others
Trustee
feel.
Welker, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying that pursuant to the review of the other members of the board, I would like to suggest that this move forward, but I wanted everyone to see
Thank you.
what a thorough vegetation re-veg plan it is, and to see that this property is being stewarded admirably.
Yeah, there's a lot of revegetation going on here.
Yeah.
Huge. It's like you say, primarily.
The whole thing is
The whole
buffer.
thing.
The only portion is that directly above the sanitary system, there's a couple of sandy areas for the applicant's pets.
Questions, comments?
Comments? A lot of revegetation.
Yeah. It's a good project, actually.
Out of curiosity, are they putting a new septic system in?
Yeah. With, one of Marty Shea's comments was the original proposal, one of the sanitary structures was about 4 inches below the groundwater, and he asked about dewatering, so we asked Rayner to redesign it, and that was recently submitted. It's the current plan that you have. It will not require dewatering anymore. It's a little bit shallower.
That's good.
That's huge.
Okay.
It's huge.
All right, we'd like to move this forward then, please. Thank you. Thanks, Scott.
Okay, thank you. So, correct me if I'm wrong, the next time I hear from you will probably be in an email indicating that we're on an afternoon meeting for potential resolution?
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Landscape architect stamp. Yeah,
So,
right.
plans are all
Landscape
stamped.
architect stamp.
He's
Yeah.
got a stamp already on.
Yeah.
There's a stamp on
There's
there.
Yeah.
All the stamps are there.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes,
All right,
thank
thank
you,
you.
Scott. Okay, and then now, welcome back, First Coastal for 130 Point Mecox Lane in Bridgehampton. And then we'll move on to the,
You know, I'm trying to
Yeah.
figure out,
Let's just roll with this.
yeah, we have an exec session at 11 with council. If we should take care of some of this, but before we get into this big, long one that you got with trustee Parish, maybe we should get that out of the way.
Okay.
And then okay, so what do you have here? No, what do you, no,
one, Point
go with this.
Mecox?
go with this one, yeah.
Point Mecox, do you want to speak to it, Aram?
Yes, certainly. So Point Mecox is, this is a plan that the board reviewed and liked at the last work session. We were merely getting the stamped plans. They've been submitted, and request that it be advanced for approval at the next meeting.
We looked at this at the last meeting, and there was some back and forth, and just as Aram is saying, some details. We needed a couple additions to the cover sheet, and I think that we're prepared to move forward, right, James?
Yeah.
Just wanted to move over.
This is replacing an existing, or connecting a dock to an existing walkway. Does anybody have any questions?
Has adequate water depth. It's off the extended property line. It's a heavily vegetated shoreline, and the ability for a large vessel to be there is, there is no ability because of the proximity of Swan Creek to Mecox. So other than a small kayak or a small jet ski, that's about all you're going to get at this dock. So it's really not going to be interfering with anybody's view shed.
I'd like to advance this if everyone agrees. So could we please advance this? Thank you, Aram.
Thank you.
Let's figure out what's the best way to handle this. Now, these folks that are on Zoom for the next meeting, are they okay sitting tight for a little while, or do we have to see if we can push off our exec session?
You have New York State DEC on, and you have the DOS.
Yeah, you know what,
Easier to get the meeting done.
Yeah, let's do that, and then let's see if I can't notify, can you send an email off to him and see if he can do, let's say 11:30,
Yeah.
please? That would be helpful, and then we could stay locked in session here. And this way, we'll just get you totally squared away.
It'd be great.
Yeah.
If I may request a slight calendar adjustment, we have an individual dock application at 7 Tanner's Neck in West Hampton. If we could handle that before we launch into the Living Shoreline projects, is that okay?
I see that.
And you also have 125 Temple Ave, that was a walk-on as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's just,
Who's Christopher J. Wood?
that's just, all we needed was stamp plans on that. That can advance now.
Okay.
All right, so-
He's not here anyway.
If you want to do those two quick before we get into the duty.
Yes, let's do your other ones.
Okay.
Other
So,
one.
Evision LLC, 7 Tanner's Neck?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, this is a dock project on Tanner's Neck Lane in West Hampton, and we're asking for a distance of 130 feet from the low water line. It's got a fairly unusual situation here. And James, if you would pull up the aerial photo, I think that would help us. If you can, so that property's outlined in the red there, and on the right-hand side, you can see that the shoreline is indented about 20-plus feet, considering the properties on the left and the right side, which are bulkheaded. And so, although we're asking for a dock that's 130 feet from low water, it's actually shorter than the docks that are adjacent to it because the land has eroded back. And sort of the evidence for that erosion, if you will, James, if you could zoom in, there's a little bit higher up, there's some old concrete rings on the beach. You can see them in the top right corner. And my client, this is from the old, there was an old nightclub down here 1,000 years ago. What the heck was the name of that?
Bay Club?
Was it the Bay Club?
Bay Club, yeah.
Yeah. And so, that's, sorry about that. My
I didn't know
client.
that, you did, so.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. And, but my client be happy, as part of mitigation for this project to have that removed, which I think probably be a good thing. So, everything else is pretty straightforward. We get to 100, we get to 2.5 feet. We get plenty of separation to the adjacent property. It's really just the length here that provides the difference.
That's right next to the living shoreline that we approved.
It is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Could you zoom in on that a little bit, James?
We need an advisory letter as well on this, don't we?
Are we into anybody else's jurisdiction here?
I think so. I think we need an advisory letter, right, James?
Yep.
All right, so then,
What's the pier line here, James, 100 feet?
100 feet from mean high water.
which is right there?
Yes.
Well, high water's up here, so it's more than 130, right?
Yeah, it's on the cross-section. I think it's 155.
155 from mean high water.
Wow. That's,
But as I said, we're inside the docks that are adjacent to us because the shoreline's eroded back in this area.
what is it, what is the water depth at 100 feet there, James?
2-1.
2-1.
And what's,
And so what is it at the present? Is it 2.5 at the inside of the floating dock then?
Yeah.
and to the pier line regulation, it's
outside.
what?
Oh, that's from mean low water is 2-1.
How much over the pier line is it?
55 feet.
We can't do that. How do we do that?
Can we draw it back and chalk it?
Yeah, we could do that.
Let's, take a look at this.
When there's another section on Rich's Bay here where you have actually extended that pier line to 125 feet.
Yeah, which we had a public hearing and
Right,
I was
process.
over by ONEC.
Yeah, it was over by ONEC, but,
Yeah.
I mean, this whole shoreline is like that. Also, I just point out, the Blue Book says that the board can take into consideration the specifics of the site. And as I pointed out, because both areas on either side are stabilized and this was not, it's eroded back substantially, as evidenced by the stranded sanitary system. And that's what creates an unusual situation.
Mark, this is in excess of our pier line?
Yeah.
It does appear to be on its face, although I do understand the need to have a longer one, given the erosion.
Is there any do you know if there's any
There's
eelgrass?
no eelgrass in this
There
area.
used to be, I know,
It used to be all over here.
but I haven't
Yeah,
been
not-
up there in a couple of years and pretty much died in the 90s.
Is there any other spot on the property where the water depth is greater, closer to shore? It's hard for me to see that.
Then you're gonna get by the extended properry line.
Yeah,
Well, just because there's a
Doesn't look
fairly,
that.
The
there's a,
deepest water was right in front of Tanner's Neck
It's over the
Road.
pier line.
Yeah. Right on the property line, it's a little deeper.
to the east side or to
Yeah,
the
it's
west?
right where the arrow is, right there where James is pointing right
Yeah.
now. Boy, I got this pointer, is that thing work?
T-Doc with a.
So, and then,
James, can you draw back a little bit on that? So that's right on the property
it's
line,
right on the
though.
property line.
Right.
I mean, in Shinnecock, we had given just catwalks with tie-up pilings, which would be,
I was just saying that to Scott.
I mean,
What's that?
Do a T-Doc like.
Catwalk to tie-up pilings or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, then they put a more in that.
You wanna go
with a
back?
rope.
To the drawing board on this one?
I'll take it back to my client. What we're talking about, I heard Trustee Pell said a T-Dock, so a catwalk out to a T-Dock with some mooring piles?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll take it back, see what he says.
Take it back to the drawing board.
The other thing I'm gonna do, just for information, is I will connect the two adjacent docks across here so we can see.
You're drawing a pier line.
Basically a de facto
And if you
line.
go that way, we're gonna most likely have a public
Well,
hearing, because
yeah.
that's what we did last
Yeah,
time.
we have a whole process. Yeah. that
Well,
was a-
how many properties from Spionk River to Baycrest along this Tannis Neck shoreline do not have docks at the currently? And how many of them do have docks? If there are 40 properties there, and 5 of them have docks, maybe we should look at a public hearing and go through the process to see if it would be something like we did at Onik, to basically pick an area to extend the pier line out to adequate water depth if
Right.
it's, if
It
that.
was more than just a public hearing, though. There was a lot of analysis done in terms of what the water depths were,
No, that-
study and all
no,
the,
no,
that,
that's-
you know, the
we
whole
would
deal.
have-
Then it ultimately went to public hearing.
So-
It was-
We would do the same
it was a
thing.
lot.
This whole,
Yeah,
basically the
this-
whole
yeah,
peninsula,
that
from
whole penin-
Seatuck Cove?
No, from here, Spionk
Oh, okay.
River to
Okay.
here.
To what area? did
Well,
you say?
Spionk River to, I would go to Judge Medina's property, which is,
Hawkok.
you familiar with that?
Yep. I'll take a look.
So
We have
this
some records in there.
peninsula.
Let's-
Yeah.
If there's something that makes sense, I'll bring it back.
I mean, I know there's a
Otherwise,
couple
we'll-
docks, or 1 or 2 along there, that's why I'm asking, and how many properties, what the water depth is, and the distance offshore.
We have, and I don't want to have all of them, but we have a bunch of them. I'll take a look at it. If it seems like it merits your attention, I'll bring it forward. But just point out again that the Blue Book says the board can take into consideration site-specific facts. So I just want to highlight that in support of my case.
He knows about Blue Book pretty good.
It's his job.
I know.
All right, what else do we got before we jump into the,
That's it.
We're gonna
Big-
hold that one.
yeah,
Yep.
hold, that's a lot of work.
Mr. Stern said that was fine.
Okay, good. Because this way you'll be able to stay right in.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Do we need to discuss?
You just have 125 Temple Ave, it was, you guys reviewed it already, we're just waiting for stamp plans, so.
We have
Which we
stamp
have, right?
plans in.
Okay, so we have what we need?
Yep.
So then it could be? All right, so now we go to the larger one, right, Bill? Trustee Parrish?
That's it.
All right, so now we
Shoreline.
should make sure that you have complete communication with the folks from the Department of State and the New York State DEC relative to this next application.
How many are there altogether? These are all this.
Oh, it's 12 properties.
Hannah, you're on, right?
Charles?
coming.
Okay.
Thanks, Charles.
12.
Somebody else is on for this application too, right?
DEC as well.
DEC and Department of State.
Right.
Good morning.
Good morning. This is Hannah Willie, Department of State.
Hi, Hannah.
Hi.
What about the DEC? Is someone coming in on that?
Trying to get them now.
Okay, thanks, Charles.
And we're gonna start on this one.
Yeah, it's a good plan.
674.
Yep,
You know, they're all.
They're all-
relatively same.
exactly. Similar, common. Are we waiting for the DEC person to join us, or shall I proceed?
You there, Charles? Just want to give them the benefit of making sure that they, you know.
Well, they've been hanging on for over an hour, so.
I know. Exactly why I want to give them the respect.
She's on the phone with me.
All right, so she's on the phone or she's coming into the Zoom? We're just trying to get her into the Zoom.
James, there's an overall site plan in that application that might be a good place for us to start.
Which one is that? not the regular plans.
Can you speak on the phone, please?
Hi, this is Stephanie. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Okay, you're all set?
Yes,
Okay.
and Tom Coleman is also on, but I don't know if the speaker's working.
Okay.
He's from DEP,
Okay,
and I'm from the Tidal Wetland Unit.
Great, thanks.
okay. So if you could just communicate whatever questions, concerns that you have, throughout the process, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Maybe we can get an update first from DEC and DEP, what's happening with this.
Okay, did you hear that?
Is there a current status?
No, actually I didn't.
Is there a current status? What's the status of the application?
We're still in the process of reviewing it. I'm the only one who's reviewing it with Tom, and just one concern that we had was how the project over just east of this project is going. Just, has there been any issues with keeping the rock core dune covered with sand and other things such as has any vegetation be able to establish itself? I know it's the first year, but just wanted to, those are some things that we are looking at that site. I'm planning on going to that site sometime this week to check it out and see how it's going.
Okay, that's good, because, getting on-site, hands-on is always helpful.
Yes, we've been to this site, and it was a very shallow, shoaled area. There was a lot of shorebirds along, eating, foraging and such, variety of shorebirds. So don't want to lose that in case with the wave action hitting this structure, is it going to start eroding the shoaled area seaward of it, or will it maintain the depths that are currently there during low water?
Okay,
I don't have any video, sorry.
Okay.
James, do we have a video?
Yeah.
Well, I mean video for me to show myself.
Okay. Is there any other comments from the folks on the TV? Anything else to update the board?
You're still in the hold pattern, Hannah?
Yeah, we're still waiting to get a better understanding on how the trustees are planning on moving forward before we issue any final decision.
I will get my review down to Thomas so that Aaron has it, so he can work with our comments. That should be forthcoming.
Thank you. Is that Stephanie?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for the video. Stephanie and Tom and Hannah, I hope you're seeing that. I don't know who shot this, but I think it's...
I did.
Thank you. If you could rerun that, I think it's quite instructive if you take a look at it. I was actually there this morning, and what I can tell you is that this is functioning in the way that best preserves all the values that we're looking to preserve on the shoreline, which is, number one, create a buffer between the upland development and the wetland, in this case Moriches Bay. Number two, to maintain a variety of habitats, which include a sandy beach, which you'll see right here, connected to the breakwater. And number three, to incorporate and maintain vegetation into the dune itself. So we had a pretty robust north wind for about 4 days, about 10 days ago. And this looks like it was filmed during that event. Is that right?
Sunday.
It was Sunday?
Yes.
Okay. So, Stephanie, when you get to the site, you're going to see that there is some of the rock exposed in the rock core dune, and there is some vegetation growing on the top of the existing sand cover. But this is, all related to the physics and the mathematics of the spacing of the structures. You can see that crescent formation that you're looking at right now and the sand tombolo that connects out to the breakwater. What you've got there is a very stable sandy beach situation, which is perfect for foraging birds. And although not all of the sand is still there, much of it is, and Trustee Pell, when I gave this presentation several months ago, you pointed out it looked like some sand was escaping through the gaps, which I investigated that this morning, and I saw the same image as you did, but when I was there this morning, there's no evidence that sand is migrating out through there.
Okay.
The substrate is the same in front and within the gaps area, in front of the breakwater and within the gaps.
What,
So-
the depth of the same?
Yeah, very, there was no observable change in water depth, whether it was in front of the breakwater or in front of the gap.
Did you have it done last year, or just?
I'm sorry, say again?
Is this the first time you measured it? Or
Well, I didn't measure it, I was just at the site looking at it. We have
Okay.
not,
We should actually measure it, that way we could tell if it's, that bowl is getting bigger or it's getting smaller.
take a look at we have aerial photography every 3 months.
Okay.
And we can measure off of that. Just I can tell you from my visual inspection, it looked really stable. So, I think that it's important in evaluating this structure and moving forward with new treatments on different shorelines is, are we better off today than we were when we started this project 3 years ago? And I think the answer to that is unequivocally yes. And 3 years ago, if we had a 4-day north wind, the water would have been under the pools and eroding the shoreline. In this particular situation, we have a stable sandy beach, and although we do have some rocks exposed, what we don't have is the upland development in the water of Moriches Bay. And so, and we have opportunities to enhance the vegetation. Some of the Spartina that we planted is still growing. Most of it, unfortunately, is not because of geese, but that'll be replaced in the spring. And we'll continue to execute that until it reaches maturity. But we took a situation here that, and I'm not going to repeat the 43 slides that I forced you to watch the last time, but this, what we're looking at right now, in my opinion, and hopefully yours, is a gigantic improvement over what it was before. And I think that alone merits moving the other projects forward, which are based upon a similar design strategy.
Hi, this is Stephanie. With the with the current project that's on the table, with the rock core dune, since two of it's at storm high water, or spring, is that spring high water or storm?
Spring.
Spring. Is there a chance to pull it back? Because I know probably storms are going to be reaching that point and eating away at the toe of it, therefore exposing the dune, the rock core. So it's possible, and I know there's a little bit more room at the current sites landward between the houses and the proposed structure, pulling that back a little bit just so it's more likely to survive a number of storms before it gets exposed over time.
I think the answer to that is a qualified yes. My observation on the existing project is that we need about 10, maybe 15 more horizontal feet in order to create that stable crescent shoreline that does not intersect the rocks. And whether that's moving the breakwater out slightly or increasing the height a little, or moving the toe back a little, or some combination thereof, I think that'll make a better project.
I mean, one concern that I had when I looked at it was the angles, like the angle that we're looking at there, the slope of the project compared to what I believe we saw, when we were on site. It seemed to be different to me. I mean, is it
Steeper.
Yeah, a lot steeper, more like straight, closer to straight up and down than it is, angled to that degree. And I don't know if that isn't a factor. And did you notice the same thing? Did you notice that?
You're referring, when you say a steeper angle, you're referring to
Oh, look at the
what
angle of the stones
aspect?
right there. See that angle?
The pyramid shape.
Pyramid shape.
Looks
When-
almost like it's a trapezoid.
Wait, we'll go back.
What
to-
is the slope for the stone or sill? Is this for the stone sill or for the rock core?
It's on the
Stone
sill.
sill.
He's talking about the sill, and is there a slope up there? No, the sill, not the rock core. I think it's like 1 to 1.5.
I don't know if it has.
See, when you actually, I don't know, when I look at it on site, you know, the existing, it just looks more straight up and down to me, where you're just, rather than attenuating that fetch and that wave action, maybe it seems to be more, I don't think it's illusional, I think you were looking at the same thing.
The foot of the structure should probably be, instead of, say if it's 10 feet, it should probably be like 14 feet, which would give it the angle, a much more gradual angle.
Right, help it.
Respectfully, I understand what you're saying, but this is working really, really well with no adverse impacts. I don't, and when we expand the footprint, Stephanie and Tom at the DEC get very,
well,
concerned with me.
Well, I would, listen, I don't like to speak for anybody, I don't want to speak for them, but when we went and looked at it, when we look at the plans that we're looking at now, it's showing a certain degree of slope.
Okay, I can.
Right, but when you go and you actually get on site and you look at it, it doesn't look like that. Did it look like that to you?
Well, the front, it was hard to tell because it was pretty high tide, but it
Well, no,
looked
we could
pretty,
do.
pretty steep.
What's the angle of this?
Well, I'm sorry, I don't see it on there, but my
Well,
point is
We can
this.
find out the angle, then get a survey to go down there to do the angle on the stones.
Yeah.
Then if,
I'll modify the drawing, because what
Yeah.
we've built is working. If there's an optical problem with the drawing, I'll amend the drawing.
Well,
I don't think that
So-
there's a performance issue.
but how would we know that, though? I mean,
Go down and look.
no, I mean, from one design versus the other design, if you're talking about, people talk about wave energy hitting vertical structures and creating
more,
more erosional issues, right? Bulkheads, war against bulkheads or hardened structures, right?
We
Hold
really
on.
gonna go there?
Hold on. No, I'm just saying, you're saying, well, it looks like it's working. When we looked at it, we say, well, because I think that we were looking for something, when you saw it, to have more of a slope. So you're thinking, well, maybe if you had that 4 days of north wind, if there was a more gradual, wave attenuation there in place, maybe it would work even better. I don't know the answer. We don't know the answer, but we're looking at this and then we're looking at that.
So I was there after the storm a couple days ago, and Aram, you're saying that you can provide aerial images. Perhaps that would be helpful in convincing my fellow board members that this is a structure that is working. If you recall back in March of 2018, there were 5 nor'easters during that month. This is when this project became evident that it needed to be done, because all of these decks, pools, and houses were completely scoured underneath. And this living shoreline came as a result of that. Going down there now, immediately after a storm, it was obvious that this is working. What would the alternative be if we hadn't done this?
That's what we're talking about.
no, we're talking about the
All
angle.
right, so pardon me for if I sound a little aggressive, but I'm gonna be.
Go ahead.
So I'm
You got Billy Mack
giving you a
back,
heads
yeah.
up.
I don't think that's a good idea.
The board does not want to be involved in the design of this project unless they plan on taking responsibility for it. And I'm sure both of your attorneys will tell you that's a really bad idea.
But that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, it is. You're
No,
talking
I don't
about
think so.
redesigning the project.
That's not what we're talking
No,
about.
Yeah, it
We're
is.
talking about
That's not what we're
what's
talking about at
there,
all.
what's there, and what's in
And
real
as I
life.
said, if there's an optical issue here with the way this drawing appears to you, I will amend our proposed drawing to match what's constructed in the field, because that's what's working in the real world right now.
You have proposed plans, and then you should do an as-built survey, and then move with the proper angles that are currently there, and compare them to what we have here, and then that will put this basically to bed for once and for all.
Well,
But my question is, when was this project completed?
it was completed in stages, but most recently in, I think it was June of this year.
So June was when it was finally done. So basically you have June until September, which is should be the quiet season over there with southwesterly winds. The prevailing winds are blowing offshore. So my thought is we should really take a harder look at it about 6 months from now when we go through the winter season where we have northeasters and northwesters, high tides, low tides, and have a whole different environment that is going to be taken upon this place. And it's really going to shift a lot of sand around there. It's going to make a lot of difference over there by the time June comes along again.
I don't think it is. 6 out of the 8 breakwaters went through all last winter. And they're all stable in the same condition today as they were then. We've done that. I appreciate your point of view, and I'm certainly willing to work with the board to continue to follow this and to, as we've already shown a willingness to amend our design to the DEC's inquiry. I'm certainly not, being stubborn about it, but the case in front of you are a series of 12 property owners, homeowners in the town of Southampton are losing 3 feet of land a year. So how much more land do they have to lose before we make a decision on something which I'm looking at, and maybe I'm biased, I don't think I am, I think I'm being pretty objective here, and you can go look at yourself. This is working, it's doing a great job. This is really good for everybody. Can we possibly do better the way that Trustee Horowitz is talking about? Yeah, we probably could, and we probably will. But what we have here are people that are being damaged every day. And we have a solution that's working every day. I think we should apply it.
What impact is there on the outer edge properties, right outside the living seawall?
I can't perceive of any different than what's happening before. This whole area is eroding at 3 feet a year. The 2 properties that don't have breakwaters are still eroding at 3 feet a year.
The westerly property on this original project, you can see how scoured out it is, going the properties all the way to that very large bulkhead promenade that goes in the bay 100 feet or so.
Yeah.
That's where the erosion problem is really being caused. The wave reverberation off of that bulkhead coming back here is scouring that whole area out.
Well, but
And
this
that's-
10 properties is between 2 headland bulkheads to begin
Yeah.
with. But they're eroding at 3 feet a year, and they're gonna continue to erode at 3 feet a year until they do something about it.
So what would you say the erosion process, is it 6 inches a year here at this project? Is it not at all?
Right, 1 year is a point in time, but since this project has been installed, there's no erosion on this site.
Okay, did you do a survey to prove that?
Aerial photos, we're gonna do a survey.
If you go down there, you can see.
But I mean,
If you do a site visit, you can see. It's,
the pools were in,
Yeah, I remember
on the
that.
storm tides,
Yeah.
the pools are 10 feet in the bay.
I was-
Now the high water line is stable.
Aaron, I walked underneath the decks, I walked underneath the pools, I'm
We all
very
did.
familiar with the whole area up there.
No, you are.
And I'm also familiar with another project that we allowed, I believe it was 75 feet of rocks, that are now far in the bay, so the original project. So my concern is that if that happened to that small project, in a year, 2 years, what is gonna happen here?
But that's-
And monitoring, I mean, when we permit these projects, we need some time to monitor them to see if they need to be tweaked, if they actually work as proposed, and then moving forward, if we have to make some adjustments, we can.
I completely agree, but let's take a look at what happened 15 years ago when the property owners were forced by the regulatory agencies to put in a single line of boulders placed on top of filter cloth at the then vegetation line, not even the high water line, but the vegetation line. And now those ended up 30 feet offshore in a span of 10 to 15 years. We learned from that, and now we put together a structure that's got a filter cloth base, it's got a core stone base, and it's got armor stone on top. those ones that were put in, that single line of rocks, they failed within the first year. Go look at this. These have been in for a year. They're doing a great job.
That's
And we
my
will
concern.
continue to monitor it. We're not walking away from this project.
But that's my concern, though. I mean, when I look at the design, that's designed, I'm seeing this, but not this, you know what I mean? And maybe we can do better. And it's like you have all these experts, you got all these experts and all these different regulatory authorities that are working on this. And you do have some information.
Respectfully, we don't have all these
Well,
experts.
look, we got the DOS, we got the DEC.
And they're giving their input, and I'm responding to it. We have proof in the field, tangible, real life, not theoretical, that this is working precisely in the way that I described to you 3 years ago it was going to work.
And can I ask, how many of these structures have had a full life cycle? One full year cycle?
6 of the 8.
And do you have a report stating the results, or are they just the images?
We submitted, I believe, this is Hannah, right?
Yeah.
Hannah, I think you saw my PowerPoint presentation that was pretty detailed. We can certainly make a report instead of a PowerPoint, but
I just think because the last project that we approved, I believe we agreed to a monitoring report, correct?
Yeah, we did.
And DC also wanted that.
Yep.
So I think what the trustees are maybe trying to get at is it might be helpful to see some type of report results before moving forward and doubling the scope of what this structure area covered.
Well said.
Okay, but happy to do that.
How long would this project take, the 12 properties proposed?
It'll take 3 months.
Will you do it in stages, such as you did with the...
We have to work around whatever the windows are. I mean, prefer to do it all at once.
And the weather.
Yeah.
But also keep in mind that an important part of this is the vegetation and the establishment of the vegetation. And you guys have heard me say a couple times that living shorelines are like perennial gardens. And a perennial garden, you need 3 years to establish it. And this year, when you look at, we had sustained drought. So when you look at the vegetation that was planted in March, April, May, June, there will be more vegetation that will be planted next spring, and that will help here a lot.
I think that's one of the main concerns too, is the establishment of that vegetation. You go down there now and there's barely any, like you were saying, and that might have been from the storms, but I think more of a maintenance of it to try to get them to establish. I think that would be very helpful for the project and for the new projects going forward.
Trustee Parrish, it's your area. Thoughts are?
Well, I don't think there's any other alternative to this living shoreline at this point, is there?
Well, we could always ask for a bulkhead or a rock revetment. Those don't seem like great ideas to me.
That's the project we're working on. It's just getting the specifications dialed in so that you get the best benefit from the living shoreline, I think is, and the management report is helpful because you can see if adjustments have to be made, and in many instances, adjustments have to be made in many things.
And also, keep in mind that living shorelines are relatively new structures. This general permit that was issued at the state or at the federal level was only within the past 3 to 5 years. And as part of the monitoring, it's acknowledged that being that these are new structures, that there will be tweaks that have to be made. I mean, they've already gone from a single wall of stone that's out in the water to staggered, which is what the current project is, and to staggering the stones so that there is access for horseshoe crabs and other marine life to be able to gain access to the sandy beach.
Is Stephanie on here? Where's Stephanie?
Yes, I'm here, yes.
You said you're going to make a site visit sometime this week. Are you going to generate a report for all of us to look at? Any, concerns or, stuff that you come up with?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna be pulling I'm trying to look up the permits, see what special conditions we had regarding that monitoring report, if an as-built survey was required for the project after it was completed, and such, and I'm just in the process of looking at that. So, it's not so much a report as me just going there, taking photos, and just, if I have concerns regarding the project that's completed,
Yeah.
which I believe is 610 and West, 610 Duke Road and West.
612.
612.
612.
612 to
And,
628.
To my,
So, I'll give an overview of what I saw, but it's probably not gonna be like a
Well,
thorough overview.
that's helpful. That's helpful.
I mean, there are multiple shorebirds that forage along here. There are horseshoe crabs that lay their eggs here. So it's a really important marine habitat. So integrating these projects in that area in a way that have the most negative impact is what we're trying to do. So
The least negative impact.
Least negative. Not most, sorry.
Least negative.
No.
Ed.
Sorry.
Most beneficial.
Most beneficial, yeah.
All right,
The
so-
best job. So,
What
yeah.
are the options at
And
this
to-
point?
Stephanie, to my recollection, I think that DEC special conditions were for 5 years of monitoring, because I believe we mirrored that in our special conditions. I'm pretty sure that was it, but that's my
So we get their
recollection.
report?
And I believe there was a condition that high marsh vegetation would be beneficial on the areas that were between the core dune and
The offshore
still.
structure, yes.
So, I don't know, I think that has to be modified, of course, because the trombolas are scoured pretty much up to the rock wall, some of them. And so it'd be good to have not just high intertidal marsh, but high marsh vegetation as well. And at least slow down some of the wave energy going up to the rock core dune.
Yeah, Stephanie, I don't think high marsh is going to survive at the toe of that rock.
Would it survive on top of the areas between the higher areas?
I don't know. I think that we're way better off with the alterna flora. It's just so much more robust in that area.
Oh, well, true, I do agree that in the lower areas it would be, but maybe it's getting some peatlands in there on those higher areas, because it's above high water, so it would definitely aid in keeping some of that sand in there if there's concern about it possibly escaping through the rock.
Is there submerged aquatic vegetation in the
No.
plan at all?
No, none
There's
in the
none?
plan and none existing.
Correct.
There's none that close to the beach. All eelgrass would be out in 3 or 4 feet of water, which is, almost 200 yards plus offshore.
Yeah, there's a big shoal here. Listen, what my clients need is a path forward. I think what I hear, maybe I'm being too optimistic, is, hey, this really is the best alternative. It certainly seems to be working where it's been installed. How do we move forward with another installation? What's going to make the regulators feel comfortable? And as I said, I'm happy to do a monitoring report, obligated to do it. We are going to continue to revegetate the area. If you look at the vegetation that we actually put up on top of the rock core dune a year ago, you can't even tell. It's blended in so well, it just looks like it's been there forever. So, but we need to move forward. We need to move forward with this application. I need some direction as to where to go. We're on our second hiatus with the Department of State because they're time limited to 6 months. And my clients are time limited because they're losing property, and we are time limited because we're losing that buffer between those properties and the bay, which, as I continue to stress, the reason we have setbacks, they're there for a reason. And we're losing that setback every day. So give me a path forward here.
Well, I gave you what my concerns were, relative to the slope of the project, matching up to what it looks like it's there. And I think that, I hear what you're saying, I hear what everybody's saying, and perhaps there needs to be adjustment, perhaps there doesn't need to be adjustment. It's just that when you look at the plans and you look at what's there, it just doesn't look like it matches up. And maybe there's a better way to attenuate the wave action. Let everybody else speak to that as well, what their issues are, and get the right footprint that's gonna create the living shoreline that everybody wants to see that's successful.
It's there right now.
But I think it looks pinched up to me. It looks like it's pinched up to me.
But it's working.
Listen, there's
Could work
working,
better.
and then there's maybe working optimally, working better, getting more beach, getting a better angle, something that's gonna attenuate wave action. so
Anytime
we
you
hit
do
whatever.
that, we expand the footprint. There's no other way around it. These are physical facts. And when I expand that footprint, Stephanie's group is gonna tell me, no. I spent 3 years in design review at the DEC before I came to this board for a permit. We had a much
So-
wider footprint with a much gentler slope. It got pushed back.
Aaron.
This is where we are.
To President Horowitz's point, would there be a way for you to measure the structure to show that?
Sure.
How would you do that, Aaron?
Yeah, we can measure it. The thing is that when you go to the site and when you look at that video, you can see that the whole landward side of the structure is actually buried, not the whole, but a portion of it is buried with the sand. Well, on the seaward side, it's not scoured right down to the toe of the structure. But if we're not obligated to do an as-built survey. It's not in the permit. It's going to cost somebody money if we're going to do an as-built survey. I can go out there, I can measure it myself, but, if you're going to tell me that a project that I've already got a permit for, that I've got to go out and do an as-built survey for it, I don't know.
Stephanie, can I ask you a
I'm not so
question?
happy about that.
Stephanie.
Yeah.
So
We're talking thousands
let
of
me-
dollars.
You can't, if there's not a better design, there's no way to advance seaward at all. He's pinched up to this absolute line. I'm looking at this diagram and then looking at what's there. It just seems like the slopes just appear. I see that more gentle type of a slope to attenuate wave action versus what's there and everything that we've learned about wave energy, hitting on these vertical surfaces, whether they be bulkheads or rocks or whatever it is, and how that affects our wave energy. And we're trying to achieve a living shoreline. We're trying to achieve rebuilding of a beach and getting protection and shorebirds foraging and all this vegetation growing. Are we pinching this thing up too tight where maybe we need a little bit more relief to make this project work better? I mean, where is the DEC on looking at this? I mean, I get you're waiting for some type of a report, as indicated in the permit. Aram is feeling pretty firm that there's no there's no option here.
The permit, the design from 612 Dune Road, and the slope, which he showed on these plans, was a 1 to 5 to 1, or 1 to 1 to 5. And it does have a different look than what is shown on the current proposal. So it just might be that he has to go back and actually scale it out to show what the slope is on the plans. And this, I think is a stamped approved plans. Because when you look at the plans for Labrador and all the others, it was much more gradual looking
Correct.
structure.
And my just thought process was a much more gradual project may have been more successful, but I guess because of the amount of space that you're allowed to do it in, it makes it hard to do that. And perhaps maybe there needs to be consideration. And that's why, we're looking to collaborate with people on projects so that we can all achieve our goals. And I think, some folks want to take hard lines on certain things, and that's great. But I think we want to work to be successful at this. And when people have concerns, I think if we look at them, from a perspective of an open mind and from an engineering and utilizing everyone's expertise, maybe we arrive at a better decision. Maybe it's just an optical thing, but I'm not sure. And this is a time in a work session where we raise those concerns, and if we have to make adjustments, we make them to get a really good project for the people in a timely fashion here. So you're probably
Okay,
seeing the
I'm
same
gonna
thing I am.
take Your thoughts back to my group here, and just point to it a little slightly different. not on the spot. So,
Well,
I'll
Okay,
bring it
that's,
back to my group and discuss the options for possibly doing it a little more gradual slope, but just, if you look at the previous plan, from, what was that?
First Coastal?
Kirschner and Labdorf,
I have
they're
one.
definitely, it's a 1.5 to 1 slope. And I don't know if it puts you out of bounds. I'm not familiar with the Army Corps' GP, if there's a footprint that you have to follow for that.
was there one for Army Corps, or was it just a stick?
No, it's not a footprint, but there are some distance specifications in there. I can't remember them off the top of my head. But you can see this is a 1 to 1.5. Quite frankly, Trustee Horowitz, if you look at that, that looks a lot more like what you're seeing in the field. I think that I'll take the blame for not the world's best drawing and go back and redraw it. This is working really well. I mean, if we want to increase the footprint, okay, if we're going to increase the footprint, I'd really like to increase the height, Stephanie, and I'd really like to increase the distance, because then I think that we get an even better project with no adverse impacts.
See, you
But-
just said it, a better project. That's what
I
we're
said
looking
that,
for.
didn't I say it in the very beginning, too?
No.
Well,
Yes, I
missed
did.
it.
All right.
That's what we're
But
working towards here.
we're trying to boil it down to get a better project.
The best
I
project.
think-
We're trying to work with you.
Yeah.
But I think if you take a look at this, this is what we built in the field.
Yeah, but you know what it is that we study these plans, and then we go down there and you know what I mean, and we look, and we're trying to do the best job we can. at the evaluation.
I'm with you,
We're
but
trying
if
to
you
do.
look at those plans and you look at what we built in the field, they're the same.
That looks similar to what I have on the
And-
video.
Right, but the other plans were more sloped.
As I said,
and
I'll fall
substantial.
on my sword for that one.
Yeah. But I still think that we need to have a conversation about this, because there may be a better design.
I'm all in favor of a conversation, but your constituents,
I'm looking
my
up-
clients, are losing 3 feet of land a year when we have a solution that works.
We know all about it. We didn't-
Maybe you
we-
should work faster.
We didn't start the fire. The bottom line is, I'm looking up at the screen, I've got people that I regard as, professionals, experts, that are also have some skin in the game here, and, they need to, go back to their drawing board, take a look at it, see, if there's any merit to making any adjustments. Maybe they're pinching you up, maybe there is some more relief that you can get to kind of stretch it out, to get you some more space, to kind of get a better result. Let's give them a little bit of time to look at this thing.
Yes.
And it'd be better for your clients.
3 feet a year.
And you're using trust property to protect
Land that used to be their property and is now trust property. Listen, I appreciate the fact that the board wants to make this a better project, but, we have a proven solution. I'm certainly happy to do all the things that I've been asked to do. I want to be back here in 2 weeks. We need to continue to move this project forward.
And how does the village feel about this project?
This is a village, this is actually a village-sponsored project. This is
Okay.
a district of the village.
There are living shorelines along Shinnecock Hills that are naturally occurring that I've shown you over the years.
Yes, sir.
And this is where this all came from. So they've been there since before the 38 hurricane. They're functioning. So that's my goal, is to see something like that in this area. So
Good, because we're building it and it's working.
it's a painful process.
But
Sorry.
but the reality is it's a process. It's a collaborative process with other regulatory authorities, and you have to accept the same nature.
And I'd like to hasten the process. We've been at it now for almost a year.
Okay.
This is Hannah Willie, Department of State. I do just want to add, based on the size, we include DEC, it's going to be pretty hard for us to allow larger, as Parkman Supervisor. But I think another one of our big concerns is whether or not a certain project adding too much fill at one quick time would alter the riparian rights to their land. So we want to also make sure that we are looking into, the not allowing structures to be built in an area where they don't have the right to be built, which is just something that we've been discussing a little bit, and also how adding a lot of stone below certain elevations can alter riparian access. So that's a big concern for us.
And thank you, Hannah. And our position is, number one, we're not changing the high water line, therefore we're not affecting that aspect of riparian rights. And number two, the gaps in between the properties provide riparian access for all parties. So I acknowledge those concerns, and I believe we addressed them.
Yeah, thank you.
And anybody else? Stephanie? Anything else you want to add before we conclude today's work session and move to executive session? It's been,
Well, only my thanks for the spirited discussion. Appreciate it.
It's a
And
pleasure.
please put me on in 2 weeks.
We'll put you on in 2 weeks.
All right.
All right, so if there's no further commentary coming in from the folks in Zoom, and we've made it to the end of our agenda for today, and I think what we need to do is adjourn this meeting and go into our executive session for the discussion of litigation, confidential legal advice, and personnel issues. So, seconded by Trustee Warner. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Stephanie.
Thank you for coming.
Well,
Thanks,
when everybody
Aaron.
leaves, we'll bring Steve in.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, everybody.
Bill.